2000 Dodge Dakota Sport Plus Extended Cab. This is a short video on some of the issues and reliability experienced over the last 21 years of owning the truck. Start with some background. My wife and I looked at several extended cab Dakotas, the old square box style, but we really wanted a 5-speed manual, which was very hard to find. We had some major issues on our 92 Dodge Dakota's transmission, 4-speed automatic, that spent 3 weeks and 3 attempts in the dealership to finally admit defeat, and they finally installed a brand new transmission. So we committed to purchase a new truck in January of 2000 as a special order, 4-week build time, and we had to put a $1,000 non-refundable deposit. This was probably the only way we were going to find a 5-speed manual with a V8. In the meantime, we sold our existing 1992 Dodge Dakota for $9,500, private party. We also joined the American Farm Bureau for $50 membership because the Farm Bureau were offering $1,000 below invoice on Dodge trucks. I had ordered the 4.7 liter V8 extended cab part-time 4-wheel drive with the 5-speed manual and 392 axles. 1-ton payload package, which is only 1,800 pounds with a 4-wheel drive. The salesman at the time talked us into the Sport Plus package that was really heavily discounted at the time. With the Sport Plus package, it included 31x10 alloy wheels, air conditioning, cruise control, painted wheel flares, painted grille, and painted lower bumpers, nicer cloth interior with map, lights, and overhead console. No other options were installed by the dealer when we picked it up. First issue was just cosmetic, as the truck was built and delivered with a misaligned truck bed. The build date for the truck, when I looked at it, started on a Friday, finished on a Sunday. Weekend crew built it. The gap between the cab and the bed was way off from the left to the right side. One side you could barely stick your fingers in this gap, and then on the other side you could stick half your hand in the gap. This was immediately fixed under warranty, along with a misaligned door handle on the passenger side door. A bad speaker in the driver's door was replaced under warranty as well. Turns out having an ice scraper in the door pocket with music playing creates a nasty buzz/rattle. Oops. Lesson learned, there really was no issue with the speaker after all, and I don't know why the technician at the dealership didn't figure that out, or better yet, why I didn't figure it out until after the speaker was replaced. Issue 2, which is a real issue, the front brakes were pulsing at around 10,000 miles, not covered under warranty. Cheaply made rotors from Mexico were to blame. I believe they weren't being properly cured, and I think Chevy and Ford also had similar issues with rotors in the early 2000s. Replaced the rotors with some Brembo brand. They were about $50 a piece at the time, and never had another issue with the brakes ever again. The ball joints on the truck were replaced around 15,000 miles under a manufacturer's recall. I guess at the time there was issue with moisture getting into the parts, creating rust, and then ultimately leading to a complete failure. I had new tires installed around 32,000 miles. Could have stretched it to 35,000, but the right front tire was showing more wear than the other 3 tires, and winter was just around the corner. Now, even when the truck was new, it always pulled a little to the right. So when I had the new tires installed, I also had an alignment done. The owner's manual shows 2 schedules, one never replacing these fluids, and the other with towing to replace the fluid every 12,000 miles in the diffs. I compromised and went 35,000 miles since I tow occasionally. I also replaced the spark plugs and the brake fluid. Issue number 3 at 50,000 miles, replaced a thermostat housing O-ring that cost $3. Of course, the accompanying radiator fluid. Couldn't get heat in the middle of winter, and turns out the radiator was only half full of liquid, and I don't know where it went because it wasn't in the driveway or in the garage. Never left a puddle. Issue 4, had to replace the ABS module, which only controls the rear brakes on this truck. And of course this had to be done by the dealership, even after I troubleshot it down to the module. I would have done it myself, but the module had to be programmed with the matching VIN, gears, and tires. Dealership also had to recalibrate the speedometer, which was dead nuts accurate afterwards. Issue 5, I replaced the clutch slave cylinder around 80,000 miles. Was hoping to improve the pedal feel and remove an annoying squeak. Finally replaced the clutch around 90,000 miles. It wasn't slipping, but the engagement was at the top of the clutch pedal throw. This led to a huge improvement in drivability. Issue 6 replaced both front shocks. The right front shock was leaking oil, so I guess the left wasn't too far behind. The shocks were a real pain in the ass to find the correct OEM replacements. Even the dealership kept giving me the wrong parts. The parts they gave me to install were about half the diameter of the original shocks. They swore they were a direct fit. I tried them, but noticed a huge difference in the rebound on the front end. Finally found the correct parts at Vintage Mopar. At least their site identified different shocks for Dakotas with the 1-ton package. Issue 7, around 90,000 miles again, replaced both front axle seals. I had to remove most of the front end components, so I decided to go ahead and replace the inner and outer tie rods, as well as the ball joints with Moog, M-O-O-G parts. Issue 8, finally the big one. Happened after 21 years. The pinion bearing crapped out with no warning. Fairly dependable Dakota of 21 years started to howl and whine from the rear end with the truck empty. It appears the spring retainer clip fell out for limited slip clutch pack and found its way to the pinion bearing, and took it out. Took it to a local shop, was quoted $3,800 if they could even find the parts. So I made a call to the old, or I should say Ram dealership, was Dodge. They wanted about the same amount of money, looking about 2 months out to get the parts. The actual gear set actually looked pretty good when I took it apart, but the magnet was full of tiny metal shavings, and I've never seen anything on the magnet drain plug in previous diff services. After some research on the internet, I did find some aftermarket options for the full rear end rebuild for around $650, and that included new axle seals, main gear set, pinion gear set, bearings, and shipping, and a 2-year warranty. So after watching some YouTube videos, I tackled this job on my own, buying a thrust adjustment bearing tool. Had a friend with a local machine shop, so that helped out a lot, and used his hydraulic presses to complete the job. Everything turned out absolutely fine, with no noise whatsoever. Issue 9, I installed a completely new exhaust system. The original one, after 20 years, broke on the way home from the state inspection for the emission test. The metal flange leading into the muffler had rusted through, leaving the tailpipe to dangle and hit the drive shaft. Real annoying and real loud. Gibson's warranty, however, doesn't cover material corrosion from environment over that many years. I did call them. They did offer to send a new exhaust system at their cost with free shipping. That was extremely nice, as everything fit perfectly and bolted right up. Issue 10. Drove the truck around for the next couple of weeks with the new rear end. No sounds whatsoever until one day the power steering pump decides to blow up, spraying oil all over the exhaust manifold. So much smoke I thought the engine was on fire. Turned out to be the power steering pump itself. The pump never leaked a drop of oil before that day. I guess this happens when every rubber seal on your truck is over 21 years old. Replaced the pump for $140 with core charge. It's a fairly simple job. Issue 11. Not really an issue mechanically, but an issue nonetheless. The driver's seat foam, especially on the bolster, was starting to turn hard and crumbly. And I looked at the rest of the seats in the truck, and they were also starting to turn hard. I guess the age was starting to catch up to the foam, or the foam, I should say, was starting to catch up to the age of the truck. I did nothing to fix the seat. Issue 12, I had to repair the cab corners. In fact, I believe it passenger side cab corner you could stick your thumb in. So this entailed grinding, fiberglassing, and sanding, and then painting. And my question is, why did the OEM put foam in the cab corners on the inside? Because basically this rusted from the inside out. Sold the truck with the camper in March of 2021 after buying a new full-size truck in February of 2021. I had so many calls on this old truck, it was completely ridiculous. First guy out of 50 calls that day bought the whole package, and after realizing that I had that many calls, I sold it way too cheap, even at 2.5 times the Kelley Blue Book price. My wife and daughter had earlier talked me into buying a new full-size truck, which was supposed to be just a simple test drive to compare engine choices of the F-150. I was in the process of making some tentative plans to special order a plain Jane extended cab 6.5 foot 4x4 out of someplace in Iowa for about $2,000 below MSRP. I was really stuck on the extended cab because I still wanted it to fit in my garage. I had the deal all squared away, just needed to decide on a engine choice, whether the Coyote V8 2.7 liter or the 3.5 liter. So why Ford? Well, to be honest, I really like the Rams. Much better ride, but the Hemi engines as of lately seem to have long-term upper engine issues with lifters ticking, and I think it's all linked to the MDS, multiple displacement system. GM and Chevy were also experiencing similar engine issues along with minor transmission issues. The smaller Chevy V8s were also having oil consumption issues. The small moving truck that my daughter had rented, a 16-footer with only 15,000 miles on it, blew through almost 2 quarts of oil on a 2,500-mile trip. The Toyota trucks at the time still weren't getting decent gas mileage. I think that was all linked to their standard 410 gear sets. So when comparing the F-150 engines, I really like the flat torque curve of the 2.7 liter. I believe it's 400 pounds of torque at 2,750 RPMs, max horsepower at 325 at 5,000 RPMs. All of the other engines, especially the V8, had to be revved to 4,000 RPMs before it really started to pull decently, and is more compatible with the lower octane fuel. I think it's 87. Anyway, after test driving the only extended cab on the lot, they offered me the fully loaded XLT Sport for $7,500 below MSRP. Everything else on their lot was a crew cab with short box configuration. We all know what happened a few months later with the part shortages hitting the markets, and prices on all vehicles, new and used, went through the roof. I doubt I would have gotten my special order in the 8-week lead time promised. I also heard stories of dealerships selling delivered special order vehicles at massive profits to other customers. So now it's time to build another camper. Can't believe I'm going to start another 2.5 year long project building a full-size camper for a full-size pickup, and a popular one at that, an F-150. Need to get the bed dimensions. I haven't decided if I'm going to do a fold-up one. It'd be nice to just drive into my garage and park it, not have to unload it. But shall keep you posted. Should be starting it pretty darn soon. Just getting my initial materials squared away.